viewers and subscribers, welcome to another episode of In a Week. I'm your host Sohaim. Today we will do a book review on this book called Shogun, The Life and Times of Tokugawa Ieyasu by A.L. Sadler. So now, let's get into the book review. Arthur Lindsay Sadler was a prominent British-born scholar of Japanese culture, history, and language who played a foundational role in the development of Japanese studies in Australia. Sadler was educated at the University of Oxford. From 1909, he worked in Japan as a teacher and was an active member of the Asiatic Society of Japan. He was the professor of Oriental Studies at the University of Sydney from 1922 to 1948. He was also a professor of Japanese at the Royal Military College of Australia. Sadler was described as a universal scholar and a connoisseur who preferred the quiet life of a researcher over university politics. He was an avid collector of Japanese art and weaponry, famously keeping a set of samurai armor in his university office. His teaching and curriculum at Sydney became the standard for Japanese studies throughout Australia. He was known for introducing Western readers to classical Japanese literature and philosophy. The Life of Tokugawa Ieyasu is one of his notable works. Why did I choose to read this book? My interest in the life of Tokugawa Ieyasu predates my reading of this book. I watched biographical documentaries on the life of Tokugawa Ieyasu, but always felt that those videos did not do justice in painting the clear biographical picture of the man. In my quest to find out deeper information, I resorted to a book search and came across A.L. Sadler's book Shogun. I checked out the table of contents and was immediately impressed by the topics covered in the book, like the detailed coverage of Ieyasu's earlier life to his political compromises, and from his climb to success to people who he relied upon in his life. The topics covered in the book's table of contents were deeply rich, and they made me purchase this book. There is a lot of information in this book that one can learn by simply watching a documentary video. However, in between, there are chapters and paragraphs that bring to light information that is always skipped by biographical videos, which makes a difference between knowing the subject summarily or knowing it deeply. In the introduction of the book, Stephen Turnbull writes about the character of Tokugawa Ieyasu, that Ieyasu's success was the result of his great self-control, lack of blind egoism, and shrewd rational insight into human nature. His was an extraordinarily well-balanced and cautious mind, everlastingly curious, critical, and impartial, overlooking nothing that might be useful and never taking for granted the superiority of its own conclusions. It is these characteristics of Tokugawa Ieyasu's personality that are backed by historical incidents in this book, which relies less on the historical victories to judge him, but rather his character that helped him when he was in a state of helplessness until he became the unifier of Japan. To simply put the magnitude of Tokugawa Ieyasu's success into perspective, one can look at this map of the Sengoku period of Japanese history, which shows the size of Tokugawa Ieyasu's territory before he unified Japan. In this book, the dramatic stories retold include Ieyasu's crushing victory at the Battle of Sekigahara, his creation of a new form of government with a centralized system of control that allowed his descendants to rule Japan for the next 15 generations, and Ieyasu's diplomatic efforts to increase foreign trade with Japan but limit the role and influence of religion internally and externally in Japan. In the foreword of this book written by Alexander Bennett, it is mentioned that the sources of information in this book are all from pro-Tokugawa texts. However, that doesn't make this book irrelevant, because this biography offers both brilliance and foibles of Ieyasu to its readers. There are 3 reasons why I like this book. 1. I deeply learned about the personality of Tokugawa Ieyasu with examples from his life. To a critical reader, this book provides information necessary to understand Tokugawa Ieyasu's thought process. 2. This book also discusses the role of important people and supporters around Tokugawa Ieyasu, like the Hondas, who were not only his advisors but also his confidant. 3. What impressed me the most were examples of his political compromises that helped him survive in the Sengoku period. Although this book can be categorized as a great subway commute read, there were times I closed the book because it required my complete silent attention to understand the information. Therefore, I read parts of this book at home and parts of it on my subway ride. Personally, for me, this book is a keeper. I enjoyed every moment I spent reading this book and learned a whole lot of new details about Tokugawa Ieyasu that were missing from my knowledge. If you like the content, please subscribe, like the video, and comment below. Help the channel grow. Thank you for watching in a week.